Hello, everyone. Welcome. Yes, all three of us squished right into this picture, right? Yeah, this is a rarity. The three of us are, hardly ever here together. I think it's only the three of us have never been in the same room.
Never.
Me, and Sonia were together, and then we got together in Miami and went to, So anyway, This is really special. So welcome. This is the Our Tour Football Podcast. We are here in Kansas City, in my house. Sorry about the filtered light, but we are here in the house today after being down in that chaos that was the draft. Now, luckily, I was up in a press room where it was not busy. These two, smack in the middle of all of it.
There were crowds like I haven't seen. Like if you're in Cleveland, we have this place called Blossom Music Center, which has a stage and then this hill.
Mm-hmm.
This was like double the hill, and it's between Union Station and the World War I Memorial,
mm-hmm.
which is this giant concrete building, which means you have no cell reception. We couldn't do tweets or texts or Instagram or anything. So we get out of there and all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up because everything finally got sent.
Mm-hmm.
The fans, the number of Kansas City fans, I know you're in Kansas City and they just won the Super Bowl.
Right.
They were everywhere.
And sea of red.
Yeah.
It was. What I forgot is how much they don't like the Bengals, because every time they would announce something about the Bengals, the boos from the crowd was crazy. I'm like, oh yeah, they kind of don't like each other.
It was almost more than the traditional Roger Goodell booing that we got. But
it really was. It was, but the crowd was great. We didn't see any issues. A couple people passed out on the lawn, but it had been a long day.
Par for the course.
Yeah, but it was just a super fun environment. Just massive amounts of people. Good venue.
Awesome.
So far, good job, Kansas City.
Yeah, it's beautiful here. If whoever is watching, you guys let us know in the comments that you can hear us okay, because we're all sharing one microphone, and that's a little different for us. But so interestingly enough, last night we expected the draft to really be unexpected, right? Like we didn't really know what was coming down. We pretty much knew that Bryce Young was going to end up being first overall. But to be honest with you, after that, it was kind of a crapshoot. No one was really sure. And so there were some really fun surprises. But I have to say, the thing that surprised me most were the Texans moving back up. Lisa, they got two of the best, probably the two best players in the draft.
And I think they proved that they're all in. They're going in with CJ Stroud. And I think they got the quarterback they wanted. I think they were very, very happy with when the Panthers took Young. And then, they made no qualms about it. It was bam, bam. There was no hesitation. Next thing you know, Texans are back on the clock. I think about 99% of everybody knew who was coming off the board at that point. So, two impact players right off the bat. So, I think Houston Texan fans are quite pleased with their outcome today.
I think they did from a front office standpoint, they did a very nice job maximizing what they got for Deshaun Watson, because they had 2 first-round picks this year and 2 next year that they got from the Browns. They gave up their first-round pick next year to go get Will Anderson, which kind of to me means they know that Browns pick is going to be more valuable than their pick next year. They have no faith in what's going to happen. But a lot of times you see teams make these big trades or get rid of these players for draft picks, and they don't do a lot with them. And I think the Texans have really done a nice job coming out ahead on the end of that deal.
I have to say the Bryce Young pick for the Panthers, if you had told me 2 weeks ago that would have been their pick, I would have told you were crazy. I really thought that they would end up with Stroud. He just seemed to fit that system a little bit more. But the athleticism that Young brings to the table, I think they just couldn't overlook it, right?
I think they're going to alter their offense to be more what Bryce, because I think you're right. The way it is now, CJ Stroud would plug in really nice. But I think with some changes, and there's a lot of changes going on in Carolina, that they're going to now build the rest of that team around what Bryce Young brings.
Absolutely. So then you get into probably the first surprise to us. I will tell you later, was not a surprise to the player. So the Indianapolis Colts at pick 4 picked Anthony Richardson. Now there had been talk, Lisa, the last couple of weeks that Richardson could slide down past 15, that they had been real high on him and then real low. And then this week you start hearing he's creeping back up again. In an interview, I was lucky enough to interview him last night after he was picked, and he was asked if he was surprised, and he said no, that the Colts had told him if he was sitting there at 4, they were going to come and get him. So he knew all along, and that didn't leak anywhere. I was shocked there was no leak. Anthony Richardson, Lisa, you've said it a million times, only 13 starts.
13 starts. I mean, when you look at the kid, and like you said, He's very athletic. He loves hearing that. He knows that.
Mhm.
He's ready to make that second step.
Yep.
He's ready to, dump that. Yeah, I'm athletic. Everybody in this draft is athletic. Let's just put that out there. He's got the goods. He's, green. Yeah, 13 starts has to be concerning. But what's more concerning is when you look at tape on him, he has the prospect. If he can come into a system, only thing worries him about the Colts, are they going to rush him in too quick? Is this a quarterback that needed to come in and maybe sit for a year under somebody, get some game experiences under his belt? We'll see. Obviously, Indy has a plan for him, but I think it's a real good fit. And this is a kid that last week, like you said, we were talking second, third round, vaulted himself into the top round this week, talking to teams. So, kudos for him.
He was very impressive to me. When I chatted with him yesterday, one-on-one at the Play 60 event, the way he came, he was so poised. He was so calm. He was just like so ready for this to be done. He's ready to move on to the next step, which is fascinating to me for someone who has such few starts. I think this could end up being the steal of the draft. I don't know that, and it might take this till the second year to get there. But I think that could be really interesting. And in his post presser last night, he did say he liked coming into an organization that has the history of Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck. He felt like he could be that next name on that list. So it's really interesting to see what he will do there.
Which is good, because you got to think that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
To put yourself in that immediate group of men that have proven, that's pretty good.
But if you believe that you have those skills, it's nice to go into it, to have the security of an organization that doesn't change quarterbacks every couple of years, and have a little bit of stability if you can perform. I wasn't surprised the Colts took a quarterback. I was more surprised that was the last quarterback taken in the first round, and that they were everything after that. There were no more quarterbacks. And we've already speculated, so you can all say you heard it here first, that when Marvin Harrison Jr. of Ohio State comes out in next year's draft, that the Colts will be looking at him for that legacy and to get a weapon.
Well, so will the fans.
Richardson.
I mean, he's
gonna
any kind of
be a hot prospect next year.
All Colts fans are going to want him.
He really is. So yeah, that is true. And Will Levis, even Hendon Hooker, although I think more people aren't surprised that Hendon Hooker maybe has fallen a little bit just with his age and his history. But Will Levis sitting there in that green room, Lisa, all night, you're like, man, that kid, I felt so bad for that kid.
I just feel he got a little bit overhyped. I mean, you look at some film on him, there is some questionable things that he's going to have to work on. Whoever his agent is really brought him in and hyped him up. I kind of felt bad. Almost an Aaron Rodgers type thing where you watched him go, slide. But I definitely think he's going tonight. I absolutely believe that the Steelers are fielding calls for him. And we talked about this morning. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a team like the Rams or the Raiders or somebody try to make a move up to get a quarterback.
I agree.
I think what we saw last year, we're seeing again this year, is teams aren't reaching as much. They're literally going for position of need. And a lot of teams filled some very big positions of need in the first round and didn't do that. I better grab a quarterback. And then you have this big empty spot at edge rusher or at offensive tackle that you should have filled with a good player.
Sure.
They made a lot of smart decisions, some very strange decisions.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. Yeah, for
this
sure. My computer's further away, so it can get all three of us. So I can't post that. Al said in our chat, he says, I really hope Richardson works out in Indy. I do too. I really like that kid. Yeah. And I think that he has everything he needs to be a good quarterback. So we just hope the team around him does it. So I agree with you, Al, completely. So then you have to look at the last one, picking number 5 was Seattle Seahawks. Also a bit of a surprise, at least to us Seahawks fans. They picked Devin Witherspoon, cornerback, out. Where's he? Illinois. Thank you very much. And so cornerback. This is a legacy, right? Like, we get it. Pete Carroll loves his, tall, big, fast, and apparently, from what I heard, really kind of like a mean player, like not in like a bad sense, just like really like hard hitting player. He loves that in Seattle. I was shocked here, Jalen. They did not take Jalen Carter. I was shocked.
I was shocked, but then I was interested in when I saw where he went, and we'll get to that. And then what that team did with another pick in that round was Seahawks fans seemed, the ones that we talked to, including your son, seemed okay with the pick because you had another pick. And there was the initial reaction was, thank God they made a pick, right?
Oh my God.
First it was, thank God they didn't trade out. And then as we're getting to 18 and 19, they're like, 20, come on, just make a pick, just make a pick. And then the fact that they made 2 picks, I think was more important to Seahawks fans than who
So
they
true.
actually were. Is
You're
they actually
absolutely
got
right.
2 first rounders.
And I think it tells you what kind of draft we have. That the talent in this draft, as far as corners and edge rushers and stuff like that. And when you listen to Pete, Troy Polamalu, he reminded me, who's not going to draft that?
Right.
Honestly, I mean, he said in his draft he loved the kid from the get-go, and I think you guys said it this morning. This is the first time in how many years that they went cornerback.
Oh, they don't pick cornerbacks above the 5th round.
So you know this kid made an impact on Pete, and for them to select him, I think Seahawk fans have a lot to be excited for this kid.
For sure.
Yeah.
So then the Arizona Cardinals kind of went a little wonky. Obviously, they traded with the Texans so that they could have the Texans pick. Came down, picked at number 6.
Oh, Detroit.
Oh,
They traded with the Lions for 6.
Oh, they
Lions got
traded
that
back
pick from the
up.
Rams.
That's
They
right.
traded
So they
back
went.
up.
That's right. So they
Yeah.
traded with the Texans.
Then went
Texans
back up.
went to 12. Then went
Yes.
from 12 to 6. Yeah, they're all over the place.
Because somebody spooked them at this next pick.
Par for the course with that organization.
Somebody
God love
spooked
them. But yeah, so they picked offensive tackle Paris Johnson. Now here's what's interesting. I did not realize Paris Johnson has a family connection to the Cardinals, and so he was thrilled. And I said, well, I'm glad they got somebody who was thrilled to play for them because I know right now they have a lot of players who are wanting out. But this kid was so excited. He was so excited in his press conference to make it there. And this is what they need. They need to get some protection for Kyler Murray without question.
Yeah.
So then you look at the Raiders pick, Tyree Wilson. I'll tell you, the kid walked into the press room and I'm like, he fits just
He's
fine
a
in
Raider
Vegas.
through and through.
He fits just fine in Vegas. Obviously, another one of the great edge rushers that was in this draft for sure. And definitely a need for the Raiders. So that was good. This next one has some people a little perplexed. So you have the Atlanta Falcons picking Bijan Robinson, running back. Now, I think most people weren't surprised that he was the first running back to go off the table, off the board, but at such a high pick at number 8. Lisa, what did you tell me about this?
I was just shocked.
Yes,
I
you were.
really honestly thought you might see Will come off the board because of the they're all in on Ritter, and it kind of surprised me a little bit. But it doesn't at the end because they're going to hand us this ball off to this kid. So they're going to.
But if you look at the last few drafts for the Falcons, last year they took Kyle Pitts, tight end.
Right.
The year before they got Calvin Ridley, wide receiver. Like
it's like
gone
they're running
after. If only they had a quarterback.
I
Now
know.
that they have weapons, it's almost like
I
they're
think it's
building
like
it
they're
backwards.
using those weapons, to give him success, which
I felt like Atlanta has a lot of holes,
They
and
do.
I didn't know that running back should have been their top priority. What do I know?
I feel like they could have waited. To me, I just don't know.
And I might just be jaded because I have a team that once took a running back in the first round, and we all know how well Trent Richardson. There are very few to me running backs that are worth the first round pick, and I love the talent of this year's running backs class. I just felt like there were more talented position players that I didn't see a first round running back at all.
What makes me wonder about this is if they had heard the grumblings, which we know they do, that someone real close underneath of them was going to take them. And I look at some of the teams that are underneath of them, and it could be true. The Bears, I mean, they have the Eagles, they have the Lions, who ended up taking a different running back. And so maybe that's what they were hearing, that he was going to be gone. And sometimes that gets pushed out there. And teams grab on it. I mean, you see the runs. We'll talk about the wide receivers here in a minute. One went, then they all decided to go.
I felt like I was at our fantasy football draft.
I know. So true.
Everyone's
It's
getting a
so
wide
true.
receiver now.
So true. So then after that, finally at pick 9 with the Eagles, Jalen Carter goes. And I will tell you, I was thrilled. I know people have their opinions on Jalen Carter. I love this kid. And I was thrilled that he went in the top 10 because that was his goal. And that I was thrilled he was going to a team that was so strong defensively as the Eagles. I think this is a perfect fit for him, Lisa.
Yeah, I think they stole him.
Yeah.
I mean, when he dropped, I think a lot of people, I think some teams were trying to get up to get to him. So I was just, Eagle fans have to be just stoked about their draft. I mean, we'll get into the second pick after that one.
Yeah.
But it is that, that was the draft steal for me, was the Eagles getting him, because that's, those Georgia boys.
I know, this Georgia class.
That's Georgia class.
Yeah.
Is outstanding.
Shoring up their defense, their commitment to Jalen in the offense and what they're doing, and getting help on defense, so they'll have better field position.
What a compliment.
They'll have better clock management and better time of possession, because they're going to have a defense that's going to get the ball back to the guy who's going to make the score the points for them. It's really smart.
It was very good. Chicago Bears, I will tell you, We had a lot. I was sitting close to a lot of local Bears media. They were not thrilled with this pick. They made a bunch of noise. They're like, they needed a tackle. But do we need a tackle right now? And I think what they were most upset about is the fact that the Bears switched spots with the Eagles. The Eagles stole Jalen Carter, and I think that's who they really wanted to see. When they saw him fall, Jalen Carter falling down, they're like, yes, he is going to be sitting there for us. And then the Bears traded out of the pick. So there was a lot. But I think this kid is a great tackle. He's going to be really good for them. And I think that he, once again, like you said, they have to figure out a way to stop Justin Fields from having to run for his life.
Yeah, it's a complimentary pick for them. I thought it was a great pick for them. I think they had the kid from day one on the board. That's why they were very comfortable with making the pick. I don't think Jalen Carter was the pick. I think they had made a commitment that they're going to shore up this offensive line because that kid ran for his life.
Yeah,
when you just swap one spot like that,
to
that means the Eagles weren't worried about the Bears taking him. They were worried about the Bears trading with someone else that would get in front of them. And so the Bears are like, listen, we don't want him anyway. We've had Darnell on our board. I think they had a couple players they could go with, and for the extra pick, they were willing to make the swap because I don't think they were. I don't want to say smart enough. I don't think that Carter was on their radar.
And it's probably not a sexy pick for fans. You know, I feel like the Bears just want to splash, you know, it's an offensive tackle. But yet last year, you know, when you're in games and you read Twitter, it's like, oh, we need offensive help. You know, I think so many fans are like, well, we can get an offensive tackle later in the draft. I mean, this isn't the 80s where we saw the running backs and the tackles all went in the 4, 5, 6 rounds. Now everybody's starting to learn, you know, you need this line. You need to get this line, and you need to get this. We have short memories
as fans, right? We forget about all the complaining we did about needing a tackle when they get us one because we have all these other names.
That's not fun.
But if it keeps our quarterbacks healthy.
Exactly.
This is the interesting one for me. And I liked this pick, but it was interesting. So the Tennessee Titans at 11 took Skronsky. I can't say it. I'm sorry. I give up. It's just Peter. Another offensive tackle. And the funny thing is those same Bears media people were like, well, rather would they would have taken him. So they were just pissy at the whole time.
Like I said, wasn't that sexy pick?
Yeah, exactly. This is an interesting pick because with the Titans, you know, you have to kind of try and figure out what are they going to do? What is the vision of this team at this point? Well, if you shore up your line and you get a young quarterback next year, maybe then they can
because you're really living
let's not
or dying.
Forget, Will Levis is still sitting out there, so he could end up in Tennessee. You never know.
I mean, that team is living and dying on Derrick Henry.
And they are.
And you only get so many years out of a running back, so you need to get that line right so that he's got protection and you can get him a gap he can run through. But they've got to figure out what they're going to do when they get to a point where he's not there anymore because they just really underperformed last year and underwhelmed. And their fan base saw it too. So
I just don't feel like I know what kind of team they are. You know what I mean? An identity. I don't get it.
I understand the line thing, like you guys said. It's like the sexy pitch, but we got to get our quarterbacks protected and you know, get some holes going. But man, you got Zay Flowers sitting on that board. You know, you got a wide receiver. You traded Brown to the Eagles. I really honestly thought Tennessee was going to go wide receiver. I thought we were going to see one of them big guys. I thought Zay Flowers was going. I really did. I said, this is a wide receiver, but I can see the pick. Like I said, offensive line, you know, but wow. That's
not the same thing to get some of the pressure off of Derrick Henry. When you're, you know, a defense scheming for them, you got to take Henry out of the mix because they have nothing else for you to worry about. And I thought that's what they're going to do. They're going to get Zay Flowers, somebody that's going to give defenses someone to worry about. And they didn't
split the load, you know, a little bit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then you get down to the Lions, who had switched, of course, obviously traded picks with the Arizona Cardinals, and they took Jahmyr Gibbs. Here's my question: that one was the biggest gasp in the media room because I think he was slated to go mid-second round. Yes. Is that correct? Yeah. Apparently they loved him. And God knows the Lions do things their own way. It's their deal, right? Like that's just what they do.
And immediately 24 hours after the pick, Swift wants out. So now they got him on the trade block. So there's rumors. So obviously there was something in that Detroit running back field that they felt like they needed. And it might be, let's go on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, Dan Campbell, we know, what kind of offense are we going to run? So obviously whatever offense they're deciding to run, that is the running back that
they're
fits what
deciding
they
to
want
run,
to do. Exactly.
is what this
I mean,
tells me.
you're going old school. You're probably going to shore up that line, shore up this running back class. So you're going to have some studs in the barn, and one of the studs wants out now. So.
Right. We'll see if he goes. It'll be interesting. Got to give somebody Jared Goff to hand that ball off to. That's what he does so well. So anyway, then we get to the Green Bay Packers at 13. Luke Van Ness.
I love Luke Van Ness.
You do?
She loves
I hear
that big old
so
corn-fed Iowa
many
boy.
differing opinions when it comes to him. I don't know. It's crazy. Green Bay, full rebuild, I think, at this point, and they're looking for a lot of young talent. I'm impressed with this pick. So why do you love Luke Van Ness so much? Because I'm just kind of meh.
You know, he's one of them big corn-fed Iowa boys. He's played in the weather that you're gonna, not as bad, but he's played in weather like you're gonna see in Green Bay. He protected his quarterback very well in Iowa. He faced some pretty rough defenses and offenses, and he's just that big guy that can move with his size. He's got nice feet. So he was on my list of, if I had a pick in the first 2 rounds, I would have liked to see him come my way. But I don't.
The fun thing about this is I looked at the guy sitting next to me and I was like, he feels like a Green Bay Packer.
He does.
Like,
he looks like a Packer,
he
right?
feels like a Packer.
He looks like
right?
a Packer.
There's certain players who just look like their team. That's you, Luke Van Ness, just so you know. Pittsburgh Steelers then went with Broderick Jones, offensive tackle.
No surprise there.
No, it makes perfect sense, right?
Yep. You got Najee Harris, you got Kenny Pickard now. This is your offense. Let's start putting some pieces in to get them protected. Let's make some holes. This pick was a homer for me for Tomlinson.
Kind of a no-brainer.
Yep.
Yeah, it truly was. So then you get to the New York Jets. Love the Jets. Okay, I get that you guys, have the fans have a lot of, confidence in this team, and they should. They have some great young playmakers. Just the decision making sometimes is a little interesting to me. So the New York Jets took Will McDonald, edge rusher. They needed help there. That makes sense. But I think this was a bit of a reach. Am I overthinking this?
I don't know. You still had a lot of wide receivers that could have complemented Aaron Rodgers for that first year.
You got Garrett Wilson, but it's one.
It's one. That's
let's thicken it up a little bit.
About tight end, could have picked one of those big tight ends. I kind of, but like I said, the speculation is it was a little reach, but they seem very happy with the pick. Kid looks like he's.
He's good.
He's good.
He's good.
So,
I just thought this was a little early.
It's a crapshoot. Yeah. So, it's another one. I think they had his eye on him, and they were going to make the pick no matter what.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised to see Will McDonald to Seattle at 20, but that just felt a little high.
Don't get jaded. Don't be.
I'm so mad. Don't even get me started. All right, then we have the Washington Commanders. Emmanuel Forbes. It was an okay pick. Yeah, that's that super skinny kid, right? Lisa, is that who we're looking at? That's the super skinny kid, I think. Yeah. His legs like this big around. If I'm thinking of the right kid,
He's 6 feet 180. I talked to him at the combine.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
He's teeny, a little teeny thing.
But he's quick. He's got nice hands. One of the least penalized corners in
instincts.
Yes.
I mean, you look at this kid's instincts. He's around the ball, and when you see that, and you see like his highlights, and the highlights are great to watch because he intercepts the ball. But he doesn't make the play to intercept the ball, but he's around the ball.
Yeah.
Look around the ball. Don't look at the play. Look who's around the ball. Instinctively, he knows where the ball is going, puts himself in position to make plays. And I think when you see that, that's what kind of.
Well, and my first thought when I saw the pick is, what does this mean for Chase Young?
Well, they're not going to do his 5th year.
They're not going to take his 5th year.
No, they already said they were going to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they say those things, but then,
that's
the
fair.
Ravens weren't going to give Lamar an extension. And then, draft day, let's re-sign Lamar.
Let's just try and up those. Don't get me started. So then you have the Patriots, and I'm like, oh, great. The Patriots are taking Will Levis. Patriots are taking Will Levis. What the hell do you mean they took Christian Gonzalez? Tight end. Great player. Great. I'm sorry, not tight end. Corner. Yeah. Like, great player. Great kid. Obviously, like, so much talent. But I was confused. Then he
interviews a lot like Bill Belichick.
Oh,
he does.
Lord. Talked to that kid twice in the last 2 days, and he gives you 1-word answers, but he's so sweet. Yes. And so it's like you can't even be mad at him about it, but that's okay. But I was interested in this because, Lisa, you told me, I was like, I thought for sure they would bring in Will Levis to compete with Mac Jones. And you're like, no, they already have controversy in there.
They already do. Between Mac Jones and
Zappy.
So,
and I was like, Zappy?
Zappy hour.
Zappy
hour.
Yeah.
So, because, still have Patriot fans that think
I saw
Bailey
Zappy
Zappi's-
jerseys yesterday.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I'm telling you that it's going to be a little
So
split. So
crazy. Yeah.
it'll be interesting.
So no, don't.
So
add
could you
another
imagine
one.
adding another
Oh my Lord, no, that would be
quarterback to
terrible.
that
Yeah.
mix?
Then the Lions come back in at 18. They get their defensive piece. They pick up Jan Campbell,
This is a
linebacker.
Campbell pick.
Oh, I love this kid. I'm telling you, this is the perfect fit for Lions fans. And I hope they're as thrilled as all the rest of us were to see that happen. I think the Lions now, with Rodgers out, I mean, yes, you still have the Vikings who are still good, and they picked up a good player too. So we're going to talk about them in a minute. But I really think the Lions, they're moving on up in that division. It's going to be good.
He's
watch.
all in. But that when you see that boy and you saw that pick, it was like, I think everybody, every analyst is, you know who was behind that pick.
I know why his last name's Campbell.
Right.
Right,
Exactly. So then you go on to the next one at 19. You have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Kalijah Cansey, who one of my favorite players in this whole draft. This was a great pick for them. Defensive tackle fits right in kind of with the whole Tampa Bay defensive. I mean, it's a great pick for them. They did a nice job. Then you,
I want to get a picture if I could of him next to Emmanuel Forbes, because they're both 6 feet tall. And Emmanuel drops in at 180 and Cansey drops in at 280.
Yeah.
And I just want to see what 100 pounds difference.
They a little
but
different.
he still moves.
Oh yeah,
like
fast.
For that
so
size.
fast.
That's what I'm noticing with a lot of the guys that I talked to, especially at the combine, was how big they looked in person. After seeing how quick they move on the field, I'm like, wow, you're way bigger than you move like someone who's lighter.
For sure. So then you hit number 20, and the first of the wide receivers go to the Seattle Seahawks, JSN, as we call him, Jackson Smith. I can never say his name right. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
Just call him Jason.
I thought it was
JSN.
Oh, that's what we call him, JSN.
JSN.
So
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
So the interesting thing here with Seattle is that they went offense, because that is not what any of the fans really expected. But to be honest with you, when you look back at the Seahawks, their two picks, they got the two best players at their positions. And so it really ended up being a really good night for Seattle. And they really needed that third wide receiver. Obviously, there's been problems with them drafting wide receivers in the past. It hasn't gone, except for DK. And then, of course, they have Tyler, but Tyler's going to be 31. And so they have to start getting a little more youth in that. I think that he's going to be a perfect complement. I guess he's just a beastie. So I'm excited about that.
He's one of my Buckeyes, so I've watched a lot of his football. I think he will be fabulous in Seattle. When Houston picked CJ Stroud, my thought was when they get their second pick in later, that's what they're going to do. They're going to do what it took the Bengals 2 years to do with getting Burrow and Chase. They're going to get CJ and Jason. And then when they moved up to 3, I'm like, they wouldn't have moved up that far. That's when I'm like, no, they're getting Will Anderson. I was expecting them to get him.
Yeah.
So I just think he will do very fine for Geno.
Yeah. It was so interesting because the reaction was split at first, where they were like, no. And then it was like, hell yes. But by the end of the night, they're like, yeah. And obviously I posted on Twitter.
Witherspoon was happy.
Witherspoon was very happy. So right at the end of Witherspoon's interview, the Seahawks were picking at 20. And so I was lucky enough, I was to videotape him watching that pick, and thrilled. And so I think that makes you more excited because they already have so much excitement to play together. So that'll be really nice for sure. Then you go into the Chargers. This made sense to me. Quentin Johnson, wide receiver. They need to do something for Justin Herbert.
Oh, and then they're quietly, and nobody's talking about Justin Herbert. They're quietly just giving him weapons, more weapons. So that was a complimentary pick for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So Al put in our chat, once again, I can't put it up there. It says, I really love the Seahawks picks, great players at premium positions. Now hammer defense in day 2.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah, definitely going to do that. So then you have the Baltimore Ravens. Shocker that the day they re-sign Lamar, they give him a new weapon to play with. Zay Flowers, wide receiver. So really between the wide receivers, because there was a run on him 4 in a row at this point after pick 20, which one went first, JSN or Zay, kind of went back and forth to
I had Zay ahead of Jason.
Yeah.
I honestly did. I had Zay a little bit ahead. So either one would have been fine, but this is another pick, with Odell on the other side with him. Give Lamar another excuse just to bomb that ball away. So I thought it was a great pick. But Baltimore always makes good picks.
Yeah.
That is one thing about the Ravens. They always seem like they knock their picks out of the park.
They do.
And for
even when we picked them apart, like when we picked apart their picking Lamar, ended up being just fine.
Just what they
I think what I like about Zay being there is from conversations that I had with him at the combine and stuff. I think he's one of those level-headed guys who will learn the good habits from Odell, but not pick up the bad habits from Odell. And as much as I love JSN, I don't know that I would feel that same way if he was playing with
Tyler Lockett.
He does.
Exactly.
He does. But I think Zay will be
Brian
just fine.
Hartline receiver too.
Yes.
So Brian brings a lot of professionalism with him, and he's played. He knows what it takes.
True.
He's an Ohio State boy too. That was a Buckeye whole connection.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see the compliments both players have, and then you can see.
I think they'll fit right where they
exactly.
That's really, really good. I like that a lot. Minnesota Vikings. And of course, yes, after they picked it, I did sing New Man on the Minnesota Vikings, but that's just kind of what I do. So you have Minnesota Vikings, you have Jordan Addison, wide receiver, the fourth that went in a row.
Yeah, there's our run, right?
Yeah. Interesting pick there. Minnesota is another one of those teams that I think is searching for an identity outside of Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. They think they need to start to kind of get more, established, because they only had one weapon. I mean, let's be honest. It was him or no one, right? And so they bring this kid in, hopefully to sit on the other side.
I am like the biggest Kirk Cousins apologist.
I know.
I just love him.
Why?
And he keeps failing in big positions in
but
playoffs.
He puts big numbers in.
He does. And I was like, when they made the pick, I'm like, excellent, they got Kirk a weapon. And then I'm like, is this just going to be one more bandage? And that because they're just afraid to get rid of him and move on. So we're going to be like, oh, we'll get him a receiver and it'll be fine. And then we'll get to the playoffs next year and he'll do what he does. And they've lost another year of making a decision on him. I wish he would play well all the time. I don't know why I like him like I do, because he lets those people down every.
Because you're tenderhearted. Here's the thing: my co-host Shona on another podcast that I do is perfect. She goes, Kirk Cousins is beige. It really is, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's a solid quarterback, so maybe this will be very helpful for him. We'll see. The New York Football Giants pick at 24. They have Deontay Banks, cornerback. This is good. They need to start beefing up that defense a little bit. I thought that was a really good pick.
Yes.
This is the next one that confused us a little bit at 25. The Buffalo Bills, God love you, one of my favorite teams, went out and grabbed themselves a tight end. After they had how many they just signed?
They got like two.
Well,
they just signed Dawson
They just
Knox.
right.
But when you look at Bean and what they want to
Dalton
run,
Kincaid was the tight end.
What they're going to do?
They're going to run 3 tight end set.
They're going to at that 12 personnel. They're going to do a 2
got
tight end set,
right.
and I think that's what they're wanting to do.
Mm-hmm.
So and I think when you see like with the Belichick's eras with the 2 tight ends sets, I think that's what their mindset was, because they made no qualms about it. They was got the kid. That so that's all an offensive scheme to run an offense that they want to run, and you're going to see a lot of 2 at 2, which with Josh Allen could be dangerous.
Why not? Well, and it takes some of that pressure off Stephon Diggs too. Let's be honest. It really does. So hopefully that'll turn out to be a good pick for them. I'm excited. This next one pissed me the hell off. I was sitting there in the press room. I was mad. I was pouting. I think I even put my arms over my chest. Like I was so mad. At 26, Jerry's World. Dallas Cowboys take Mazzie Smith, defensive tackle out of Michigan. I wanted this kid so bad in Seattle. God, he's good. He's so good. All right. Then we have Jacksonville Jaguars. When offensive tackle makes sense.
Lots of sense.
Yeah. Made total sense with their young quarterback. They needed to beef up that line. They took Anton Harrison. And then the Bengals, again.
No surprise.
Yeah, no surprise there either. They took Miles Murphy, defensive end. Fantastic player. This kid is really good.
Yep.
So he'll be
best player available. Defensive end at that position.
For sure. Then you went to 29 with the New Orleans Saints. They took Brian Breeze. I think it's Bressie is how they actually say it. But defensive end, defensive tackle. This kid is like, he had moved up a lot of draft boards from where he had been a few weeks. I think that he really had shined on a few things, which was really good. Then the Eagles. Lisa, I know. First they get Jalen Carter. Then they turn around. Nolan Smith, edge rusher.
If you'd have told me that they ended up both those players, I would have said you're crazy. I would never have thought they would end up with Carter and Smith. That's
And when you get two guys from Georgia, from a program that is established, that have played together for a couple years, that know each other, that are going to play now on the Eagles team, which is already good.
Yes, already offensively, right? And then let's go defensively, which we thought, you know,
it's
well, that's where they lost most of their players was defensively.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah,
because you're going to get so much more out of the two of them and how well they know each other and how well they can play together. I just think that Eagles team is going to have to be the front runner for the NFC next year.
I thought that was the best draft. I thought they had the best division, just behind the Texans coming in and doing what they did. Yeah. This was just something that I think that as if you're an Eagles fan, you just feel like you woke up and that was a dream because you know, the Texans, when they traded up, it's okay. That was expected. It's like, bam, bam. Right. This is what they needed. Never thought the Eagles they would land Carter and Smith.
So it's like those are the two teams, and we have one more pick to talk about. But those were the two teams that I felt made a statement in this draft.
Yep.
The Eagles said, "We know our offense is good.
Yep.
And now our defense.
And now we're coming at you."
And the Texans said, "No matter how it pans out, we are committing
to blue chip
doing
players.
Something with this team this year
and
getting them."
No, let's talk about the last pick, and then I want to go back to the Texans for just a minute. So at pick 31, just 31 picks this year. Sorry, Lisa, because Miami Dolphins lost the pick. Don't bring it up. Don't bring it up with her. So Kansas City Chiefs, they went complete homer with this kid. And I love it. They got their edge rusher. He's a great player. It's Felix, someone else.
Say it. I was saying it.
Nduke Uzoma. I can't.
Uzoma.
I'm so sorry.
Uzoma.
Kansas State.
So from hold on one second. Kansas State. Graduated from high school, Lee Summit High School, which is here in Kansas City. Complete homer pick.
Jayhawks?
Was fans of
no
Wildcats.
No,
Wildcats.
Yeah.
Kansas State Wildcats.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is fantastic because he's a great player, but then this was going to be a fan pick. They loved this pick. The kid's local, and they love that. So, and they need some help there. So that's great.
The Chiefs have the luxury of being as good as they are and winning the Super Bowl and having the draft here.
Right.
And so you can go complete homer with someone who's legitimately a good player.
Yep. Very much.
Maybe could have waited later to get him. But I think for another team, you might have been like, I'm going to wait and see what happens with Kansas.
No, we're
nothing to lose. You know what? We're going to do it now. We're going to make a splash for the last pick of the night. And we are going to, and the crowd went crazy. And it was really well done.
We have to remember they lost Frank Clark this year. So they needed, that was definitely a position of need.
Yeah.
So I want to go back and just talk about a few teams. So interesting to me that the Cardinals traded down, made total sense, got a ton of picks, which they need. That team is the Swiss cheese of the NFL, where they have so many holes, right? But then they traded back up. And I was so irritated by that because I'm like, I was impressed by what you did. Now you're just annoying me. So that was weird. Then you have the Texans, who I think, this sounds like from what I've read about their new head coach, this sounds like him. He's like, if you're going to let me rebuild this team, let me rebuild this team. And we're going to have to put some effort into it. We are done being the laughingstock of the NFL. And I loved it. I loved the drive. I loved the effort. I loved the two blue chip players on this team. And they're just going to build and build and build. And they might get back to those Texans of 10 years ago, who had Matt Schaub and were a great team. So it's going to be interesting. I was really excited for that. I'm always excited for a team who has not done well for years to start to get their own up a little bit. I think it's really interesting.
Especially if they make smart decisions.
So smart.
The players they chose were smart. The way they got the draft capital to move up and do it was smart. Mm-hmm. I'm just thrilled that my Browns didn't do anything crazy and trade back into the first round.
Right.
We did it.
A lot of it, I think, is just because they didn't have the capital to do it.
Right.
They have given away.
Both Kate and Lisa, the Dolphins and the Browns did not have a pick in the first round. Neither did the Rams, neither did San Francisco. That's why there were so many two teams, so many multiple picks.
Broncos
was
didn't
nice.
either,
Nope. Oh, no. Thank
you.
you.
They have back-to-backs in round 2, I think. Browns don't even have a round 2 pick. We don't pick
we were talking about that last
night. At least you're
night.
picking at 51.
Yeah, I got 51.
We don't pick till like 70-something.
So when you look at the top of this next round, you have the Steelers, you have the Cardinals, the Lions, the Colts, the Rams, the Seahawks. The Seahawks have 3 picks today.
Do we see movement here now?
There's got to be some.
Do we going to see
some
serious movement here? Because it seemed like last year we were like, oh, this first round we're going to see movement. We didn't see much. Those second and third rounds, they were moving so much it was hard for us to keep up.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if we're going to get that because if you follow, of course, Ian and all the reports that Pittsburgh's fielding calls for supposedly should be coming off
because they pick first in the second round. So they have 32. Which I wish when they take a pick away from a team, they just have a blank. Because now I have to, instead of being 1 to 32 and 33 to 64, now I have weird math numbers.
It gets
in my
a
head.
little math.
But they pick
there.
32 or 32, and then they pick again at 49. Green Bay has 2 picks fairly early in the round. Those are teams who might be willing to move those first picks to get some stuff back.
And you have to look at it. When you look at the second round, like we're looking at right now, you have to say, okay, what team would make the switch with Pittsburgh? Because Pittsburgh's not going to want to fall too far.
No.
Okay. Because obviously they've got some other needs that need to be filled. You know, Joey Porter Jr. is still sitting there.
Yep.
How about that? You know, would that be a great pickup? Fans would love that. Porter's kid coming to the team. So you got to look at it, the draft board. Okay. We know Arizona's set.
They don't need a quarterback.
They don't need a quarterback. You know, Pittsburgh's set. So you got the Steelers that are pretty much okay, because the Cardinals you don't. So you could go up to the Cardinals. Would the Cardinals go back down a couple? So there's a lot of play
Would the Raiders
there.
move up? How are they set at quarterback?
Well, I mean, they have Jimmy G. There is going to be their starter, and they might give him a year, but you never know because he can't stay on the field.
Right.
I think if I'm looking at the top kind of teams, I really feel like it's the Rams. The Rams are
and Saints.
If they like Levis enough, or even Hendon Hooker, let's not forget about
we got Hooker out there too.
who
Hooker could easily go in front of this kid, and that would just cause a whole you know, because there's obviously some questions and people are going to start asking those questions today. Because it's like, okay, why did he slip? You know, obviously the GMs know why. You know, they do the homework on these kids. They know. You know, you take a kid that started 13 games over a kid that's, you know, started way more. I mean, it's.
But they do the same thing that we do in our draft show. Is, do these teams need a quarterback? Nope. So I don't have to move up to get him in the first round. I can wait till the second round. And they look at the teams ahead of them. They're like, they don't need quarterbacks.
Right.
So they don't worry about him being there. They don't think about the effect.
But we're only in the second round.
Yeah.
So you're going to give up a player that if you do have a good quarterback, that's going to sit possibly a year or two. So it's like, is it worth a second round to have this player sit for 1 or 2 years? I mean, you got to look at that. And then we look at. I know. It's
Or if you're the Rams, if you're the Raiders, if you're Green Bay, if you're some of these teams, the Titans, the Saints, it might make sense to get him at this point. Either of them.
I feel like the Saints aren't as quarterback depth. I think Carr is going to do well for them. So I don't think they feel like they need a quarterback in the next, couple weeks, or whatever. Or, sorry, years, not weeks. Sorry. But there are definitely some teams out there who have to be like Tannehill. This is last year there, Stafford keeps threatening to retire. So what do you do there? The Raiders, what if Jimmy G gets hurt again? And so what do you do there? So I think that's really the question mark. When it comes to the defensive players, though, there's so much depth in the second and third round. I think you're going to see a big round in defensive players and these centers. Remember, the top 2 centers are still sitting there in the second round, and they could really, really go quickly for teams that need them on that offensive line. Yeah, John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith, which I know that's not his name, but that's what I call him. And then I think it's Whippler out of Wisconsin.
Yes.
I think that those 2 are going to go probably pretty quickly in the second round. So we're excited, and we're going to head back down there again today. We'll be there and give you as much live action as we can. I want to apologize to everyone. I could not post each individual pick on our turf because I was in the interview room. There was just too much going on, and they had no cell service because there was 150,000 people there. So they couldn't do it. So it was good. So we hope that you guys will check in. We will check in with you guys again. Probably Tuesday. We'll be back for the show. We'll give you our wrap up of the rest of the rounds of the draft. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. And this is going to look really weird because I have to lean forward to end the show. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.